Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being on the dope. I'm your host Maui. Very excited tonight because we got some really great news. And I was going to do a completely different show, but then news broke a few days ago that made me have to change everything. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have heard that Russell T Davies is coming back to showrun Doctor Who. Uh, Russell T Davies is the man who, of course, restarted the Doctor Who universe back in, I want to say it was 2005. And this is a big deal. This is the man who gave us Chris Eccleston's Doctor, David Tennant's Doctor, an amazing run, John Sims Master. This is amazing news. He is beloved in the Who community. But is it the right move for the future of the franchise? And that's what we're going to discuss today. So I'm very excited to have that discussion. And to join me, I've got some lovely people, some lovely folks that are going to talk with me about the Who. First up, my constant companion on this show, my dearest friend Stephanie. Stephanie, how you doing, bud?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. All right,
And Deacon's here, of course, to help weigh in on the conversation.
Hi, Deacon. Are we getting Abby today or no?
Oh no, just me tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, and Deacon, don't forget Deacon.
And Deacon, of course.
Yes. And then first time on the show, new friend of mine, wonderful performer that I met in the Facebook script reading community. Wonderful performer. Very excited to have her on. Oh, we have Sadie. Sadie, how you doing, bud?
Hello, I'm doing fantastically well. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Hello,
thank you
Kitty.
for being on. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. We're just gonna have kind of a free form conversation. Let's first talk about the news of Russell T Davies coming back to Doctor Who. Are we excited about this? Are we like why are we going backwards? Like, what are we feeling, Stephanie?
So when I first saw the news on Facebook, it felt like an April Fool's Day joke, right? Like something that someone would have posted that's like so outlandish. You're like, oh, ha ha ha, happy April Fool's Day. But it's obviously like September. So I was very, very surprised. Like, who would have expected that?
Who would?
Ha ha ha. I think I have lots of feelings about it, but ultimately I think it's awesome. And I mean, I became a fan of Who in Stephen Moffat's era, so I'd never seen like fresh Russell T Davies, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't get into it until 11, right?
Season 6.
So you weren't with us through the Eccleston and Tennant years when it was airing. Of course, you've gone back and watched them all, but
And I just I have lots of stuff, but I'll talk more about it later.
All right, Sadie, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, knee-jerk reaction, and I've yet to find a good reason to oppose it, is hell yeah! I'm very, very excited because honestly, I actually did get into it during the Russell T Davies years. I was lucky. I had a friend who was like, you should watch this. You would really like it. And they were right. And yeah, I can understand why a person might think that it would be regressive in a certain sense. But I think that what Russell T Davies brought to the show is in many ways what has made it what it currently is. And at least a lot of the things that I love about it, because the inclusivity was there from day one in this reboot, and the thoughtfulness about social issues and how to include them in a careful way. Really, I feel like, I mean, it started in the beginning, but it really found its momentum, I think, in the Russell T Davies years. So yeah, I think it could be a really great thing. I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in a similar boat. You know, I've been watching Who since classic Who. Like when I was a kid, I used to watch on PBS, like the fourth and fifth Doctors back in the day. Peter Davison is like my first Doctor. I remember right after Tom Baker's era is kind of when I got into Doctor Who. And I've seen it evolve over the years. There's been, runs, doctors that I have not liked. There have been doctors that I've liked very much. And, it constantly reinvents itself. So if one is not for you, just give it some time. And then eventually it'll become something new. It's kind of the beauty of the franchise. I'm very excited to have Russell T Davies come back because this is a fair amount of time between creative periods, right? He's been gone for quite some time now, and I know he's evolved as a storyteller. I really want to see
more than 10 years.
Yeah,
It's been a while. It's been at least a decade, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2010 when he left.
Something like that, yeah. So it's been like 11 years, 12 years.
4.
But like I know that he's been getting some critical acclaim for a show that he did called It's a Sin. I really want to see that. I've heard that he's really evolved as a storyteller. I haven't seen it yet. I'm hoping it's on BritBox, which I just streaming service I just purchased, which by the way has like Doctors 1 through 7. So
I've been meaning to watch it. It's somewhere. It's available.
So I'm hoping it's on BBC because I think most of the BBC stuff is on BritBox, not be like BBC, maybe some ITV stuff, no Channel 4 stuff. So if it's on Channel 4, I'm screwed, but that's fine. But yeah, I'm really excited to see his take on it, especially because like the inclusivity of it all has increased so much. Like, the foundation that he laid made it so that we could eventually have a woman portray the Doctor. I don't know that we get there without, the work that he did back then. So it's very, very exciting to me to see that. Do you think, Sadie, let's start with you on this one. Do you think that this is a panic button move? Do you think this is BBC saying we need to right the ship? Chibnall's run has been very controversial, to say the least. So yeah, what do you think about that? Hello, Mother.
So Chibnall's run has definitely been. Sorry, what?
My mom said hi. So hi, Mom. and so did Stephanie's mom. It's a thing on the show. Our moms are always here.
Oh my God, I love it. That's so sweet.
While you answer this, I'm gonna go check on my chicken that's smoking up my entire apartment.
On your smoky chicken, yes.
Okay, take it away, Sadie.
I hope it's smoky in a delicious way. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a break glass in case of emergency move. I think maybe it's an appeasement move to some degree, because I think very few people have much bad to say about the Russell T Davies years, regardless of where they land on pretty much any other part of Doctor Who. Most people, we can all agree the mid-2000s effects were quite cheesy, but beyond that, the writing was good. The stories were compelling. I mean... So, yeah, I think it might be a little bit of a, maybe this will make everyone happy, but I mean, so far so good, right? What do you think?
I definitely, I didn't think of that. I don't think it's like a last resort by any means. No. I mean, I know plenty of people who enjoyed the Chibnall years.
That's the thing. If anything, I feel like it's gotten more popular.
I know.
Because of the controversy.
Yeah, well, the problem is the people who complain and stuff are the loudest, right? But it's interesting because I think you're right. They might be trying to appease to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, just kind of level the playing field with the fans a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I said, I wasn't around in the original run. And I'm wondering how much we glorify it, how much fans glorify it now that it's been a long time, and they're like, oh, like you look over old episodes that you might have not liked at the time, but you're like, yeah, that's just a Russell T Davies episode. That's good because we liked him, I mean,
there's plenty of stuff in his era that doesn't age well, especially like the first couple of seasons. Like the production value wasn't that high. Yeah, there's definitely stuff that doesn't necessarily translate to what our eyes are used to watching now.
Yeah, so that's interesting to think about.
But I think Okay. So it's interesting because Maui and I were just talking about this off camera last night about how some of it really has aged. I'm sorry, I think my internet might be slightly crappy.
You're a little pixelated. That's all right. We can hear
We
you
can
fine.
hear you though.
Okay, good. Let me here. I'll try going off camera for a minute. Maybe that'll make it better. We were just talking about rewatching, and I was saying actually that for me, I was very into the early Moffat years as they were happening. And now when I go back, it's like, what was I thinking? Not to say that that it didn't have its merits, but like Amy and the doctor are just freaking teenagers gone wild, and they make each other more reckless. And yeah, so I think in some sense, I am amazed at how well those earlier years have aged, because some of the stuff in between has aged so much worse in such a shorter time.
Yeah, I think Moffat, I think Moffat like obfuscated a lot of his weaknesses as a writer with clever dialogue, right? Like really clever turns of phrase, really clever story turns and things like that distract you from the fact that like the characters are not necessarily doing what the characters would do. They're doing what the writer wants them to do, which is I think a very important distinction to make.
Yeah.
And as I said in that conversation we were having, I think Moffat, and we'll get into this more when we kind of break down each of the showrunners, but I think like Moffat's biggest flaw for me is that I don't think he understands the role of the companion in Doctor Who. He turns his companions into just mini doctors. And they're doctors until they burn up, because a human can not possibly be a doctor, which is a consequence we saw in the 10th Doctor era. We saw what happens when a companion actually becomes a doctor, that they burn up from the inside. But he turns them into just like, no, they're just as capable as the doctor, which does two things. It makes the doctor seem less singular, less special. And then two, then you have characters that are just enabling the doctor instead of grounding him to humanity, right? He's a wild god that has to be reminded that there are people that matter. When everybody is a wild god, why do the humans matter at that point? You know what I mean? Like it's a very strange thing.
I mean, about Moffat.
I do. I have a lot. I have a lot of things to say about Moffat. What were you saying, Sadie?
It's interesting because to that point, how do you feel about Dr. Donna?
So Dr. Donna was unique in that, like, one, like she wasn't just like that just because, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like something happened to her, and that thing that happened to her could not possibly be sustainable. This is a big singular moment. It wasn't every single character, right? Like Amy becomes just as capable as a doctor, River's just as capable as the doctor, me is just as capable as the doctor, Bill is just as capable. Like half of them become immortal. You know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean. So it's not, there's not enough of a divide between what makes them human and what makes the doctor the doctor. I would agree with that.
And the only time that I felt like Moffat was actually like showing the consequences of trying to be too much like the doctor with Clara, like, and mind you, like I don't like Clara as a companion very much. But but he does this amazing episode where she dies because of her hubris, and then immediately undercuts it right afterwards.
I know.
The episode that like makes me like say, okay, this salvaged her run as a companion, and he's no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna make her immortal and give her TARDIS and give her a friend.
Well, and the whole fridging Danny Pink thing, I was not into it. I don't like fridging. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of fridging.
I just hated it. And I really liked Danny Pink, and I really hated that they did that to him. I really was not happy about that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He was a really cool character. And I was like, so we're doing a Joss Whedon here is what we're doing. We're doing a Tara, or we're doing a, Wash, where it's just like, this person needs to have a tragic backstory.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into the eras of the Doctor, the modern. Oh yes, Stephanie.
Valley, can we maybe talk about, before we move on, talk about things that we're worried about or
Yeah,
negative things
absolutely.
to having Russell as a new showrunner? I
Yeah.
only have 2 points if I can go first.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
So the first point is, you know, it's another white guy.
Mhm.
I mean, of all the white guys in the world, I think this was the best choice. But like, I was looking at the background you have here before we pulled up our cameras, and I was like,
I can pull it back up. Keep going.
Yeah, it's a
I was
little,
like,
it's a little monotone.
they all look. I mean, they look exactly the same, right?
Yeah, they look like they could be cousins.
Right.
Especially
So I have a little
especially
beef with that.
Chibnall and Rusty Davies look like basically the same person.
Brothers, yeah.
And Moffat looked upset that no one told him that we were all wearing glasses today.
So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
The only other thing is maybe not even the showrunner or whoever made this decision's fault, but the fandom's fault is like, in the announcements for this, I saw so many people like, the show is saved. It's not gonna get canceled now. Thank you, God. Thank you, the BBC. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, okay?
Yeah.
The show wasn't bad. Like,
No.
maybe it wasn't your favorite. I enjoyed it a lot. Like, it just makes me mad because so much of their like relief to Russell coming back and relief that this era is over is related to the fact that the Doctor is a woman, and that's all I say to that. Not all of it. Not all of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A lot of it. So that's the only 2 problems I have. More excited than that. So what about you guys?
It actually makes me sad that she's leaving because, as you know, Stephanie, I have lots of issues with Chibnall's writing, but I love her as the Doctor, and so like I really wish we could have her carry on one more season so people could see what she's like under a showrunner who I think more intrinsically understands the Doctor, right? I because I don't think Chibnall gets it. It's one thing if like, I don't enjoy the direction of the season, but like specifically his episodes, like the episodes that he specifically wrote, like I don't like them particularly either. Like my favorite episodes of Chibnall's era, I don't think are necessarily written by Chibnall, with the exception of maybe like I think he wrote the Rosa Parks episode.
Yeah, that was a particularly well done episode, I thought. I don't know.
So that so that's probably what I would say about that. I'm happy to see Rusty Davies back, but I don't want this to be seen as a reaction to a woman playing the Doctor. In fact, I hope that like if I would love another woman to be the Doctor, if not at least a male of color or a non-binary person of color. Let's just keep pushing the diversity. Let's show the Doctor just like really diversify their regenerations.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like we gotta because we're bringing in an old writer and everyone loves him. But that being said, we don't want like Obama and Trump situation, right? Where we just like
reactionary,
something radical, so we have to swing way back the other way.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah, well, the good news is, like we said, I mean, Russell T Davies really did lay down that inclusive foundation. There was a lot of queer representation. There was a lot of gender diverse representation in those early seasons, like more than you would have thought for back then. It was actually pretty remarkable, as I recall.
Yeah, I actually enjoy the diversity in his era more than I enjoy the diversity in Moffat's era, because Moffat has to put lampshades on everything. And look what I did. Look what I did. Look what I did.
I
look
agree.
what I did. It's like, oh my God.
And actually, I felt that way about Chibnall a little bit some of the time. Some of it was really heavy-handed. The whole, what's his name from Sex and the City? The whole story of him. I was like, okay.
What, Chris Knopf character? Mr. Big?
The businessman, the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Mr. Big character. Oh, you froze.
Oh, no.
You can try.
You're back.
Did you know who I was talking about, or was I
being too
Chris,
vague? Chris Knopf, he plays Mr. Big.
Yes, that one.
I like Big, but I preferred Aiden. I'm just saying.
I love
preferred
you.
Aiden.
I'm so sorry I'm having such massive
No.
technical difficulties tonight. I don't know what this is about.
It's fine. Is Deacon playing the piano?
Yes.
Oh wow. Keyboard cat, new meme.
Yeah,
Reborn.
he just wants to be the center of attention, like always. So.
Yeah, play us out, keyboard cat. So, okay,
Oh
so
my god. I'm trying to
okay,
sort
since
this
we're on
out.
Chibnall already, let's talk about let's talk about the pluses and the minuses of Chibnall's run. So what do we love about Chibnall's era of the Doctor? We'll start with that. Stephanie, what do you love about Chibnall's Doctor?
I mean, it's so slow.
Huh?
I really like. I know that a lot of people are having trouble like connecting to the companions, and I definitely feel that as well. But I also love that there's multiple of them. That's one of my favorite parts of the new era is having the group of companions. And while I definitely feel like they could be more fleshed out, I love them. I mean, they're great characters, and they're all
The
different.
fam, specifically, like the whole concept of this is the Doctor's fam. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love. I mean, I love every one of them. They're all different, unique, and yeah, I would die for them. The end.
Okay. Well, Sadie, what about you? What's like, what are some things you love about Chibnall's era?
Oh man. Well, I did love, even though it was a bit, again, heavy-handed, I did love the way that it sort of organically came up that the Doctor is unable to do basic things as a woman just because people won't listen to her. She's like, what the? It's such a great, it's sort of the same reason I love, I don't know if you guys have seen Some Like It Hot, but it's one of my favorite movies because it is so goofy, but it is one of the only times where men dress as women and they genuinely learn something about what it's like for a woman in the world and how fucking horrible it can be.
Yeah.
And I think there's always merit in that, even when it's a little heavy-handed, like in the episode where it's a literal witch hunt.
But I think the episode's like ahead of its time, or that movie, Something Like Hot, is ahead of its time.
Oh, wildly,
like,
yeah.
There's not even like the whole like gay panic thing that you see through like the 2000s.
Oh no, yeah, it's one of
like
my
at the end,
favorite
he's like,
lines
I'm a
of
man,
dialogue.
and he's like, oh, that's fine, no one's perfect.
Well, and there's a line in the middle of the movie, even. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, but there's a line in the middle of the movie, even where one of the characters, Tony Curtis asks Jack Lemmon, why would a guy want to marry another guy? And Jack Lemmon says, security. Like, yeah, same reason anyone wants to marry anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was the 50s. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the same reason that I love it. It's just that very simple way of pointing out how a different person experiences the world differently. And I think the same could be said if, I think a lot could be accomplished by having a person of color play the Doctor. I think a lot could be accomplished by having, I don't know, a disabled person play the Doctor. God knows. I mean, there's so many ways you could take it.
Yep. I'll be right back, but I'll give you your next prompt, which is you said what you liked about the Chibnall era. What do you dislike about the Chibnall era? Sadie, we'll start with you.
Do not give me a solo.
Oh, I mean the heavy-handedness.
I'll leave my camera on. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sadie.
You want to go first? You can go first.
Go ahead.
The heavy-handedness is a little much, and wasn't a huge fan of again, it wasn't quite fridging, but it felt like fridging with the mom at the beginning, or the.
Can you tell me what you mean by that? By fridging?
Oh yes. So when one character is killed off for the sake of another character's emotional journey.
Oh.
And it's very common. It's a massive trope. There's a reason there's a term for it, but it's just very done to death at this point. And especially when that character is a woman of color, it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
To see her get killed off immediately.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But what about you?
I think what I said earlier, just with the companions not being as like fleshed out as in the past, like
Yeah.
a lot of people are saying they're having trouble connecting to them or feeling, caring about them, and I kind of feel that too compared to companions in the past, especially like more recently, like Bill. I loved Bill. Oh my god.
Oh, I loved Bill.
And
agree.
I feel like I feel towards these companions, I love them, but I'm like, they're companions, they're not like Bill. I'm like, I would die for Bill. Very passionately. And I know Maui's going to say this, what he disliked when he comes back. So I'm just going to say I loved the big twist at the end of the last season. It was very bold.
Which the child,
the Timeless Child,
or the new one? I'm sorry, it's been so long since any of it aired. I'm losing track.
Timeless Child, a whole storyline. I loved that. I'm excited to see where the show goes with it, but I know Maui has other feelings, so add that to my things I like about the Chibnall era.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I get you. I'm definitely with you on the companions. I would like to have more of a deep dive on who they are as people.
Yeah, and even when we kind of had 3 companions with Amy, Rory, and River, I still like cared about them so much,
Yeah. But they also had they all served different functions in a more obvious way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Maui, you're muted, friend.
You're muted. Where are we at? We still on Chibnall?
Yep, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to repeat what you said. Give me bullet points.
What we disliked?
Yeah.
I said the disconnect that we're feeling with the companions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I said the heavy-handedness and the fact that the whole companion origin story hinges on the fridging of a woman of color. Wasn't a huge fan of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are great. I think, like I said earlier, I think just intrinsically, I don't think that he kind of gets what makes Doctor Who tick. Like, there's a certain magic to it, and like you can tell when somebody doesn't quite get it,
or like gets it and loses it, kind of.
Yeah, like there's times I'm like, oh, you're so close. Oh, you missed it. Like that kind of drives me crazy. Also, it's a similar problem that I have with like Fantastic Beasts, like those terrible films. That can like somehow
I don't even know where to begin with those movies.
Right. Or with the creator, but like it's like, how do you forget the thing that made your series special is like children, and make it like all grown up and dour and muted tones, not a color to be found. I very much felt that with Chibnall's, Who. It just didn't feel as fun. It didn't feel as bombastic, and you could see that he was trying to make it so. You could tell like their studio feedback, like you have to amp it up a little bit, man. And I don't feel like he ever quite got there.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because he is a good writer. I watched season 1 of Broadchurch, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But that's a very different style of show.
That's a drama.
Right.
Heavy drama.
And I liked his individual episodes when he wasn't the showrunner, right? The episodes that he wrote in Moffat's era, and even in Davies' era, he wrote a couple episodes. I love those. But
I feel the same way about Moffat in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
we all do.
yeah. We'll definitely get to. Okay, so yeah.
I mean, Blink was amazing.
Yes, Blink is amazing. It's actually not.
Then he freaking did the Weeping Angels to death.
Yeah, it's actually not it's not the one that I point to for people for Moffat. I know a lot of people use that as like the entry point into Doctor Who. That's actually not my entry point for people into Doctor Who. Hashtag not my entry point. My my entry point for people to get into Doctor Who is actually Girl in the Fireplace.
That's an
That-
excellent
That's a good
choice.
one.
Yeah.
That one always gets forgotten.
Yeah, it's a fantastic.
That's a great. No, that's
episode.
one of my favorites.
It
Mhm.
might be the most, for me, the most underrated episode of Doctor Who. So, just saying.
Agreed.
Eric here says it seemed like he was pressured to bring back the Master and the Daleks to make it feel more like classic Who. I do wonder that, Eric. Like, did they say like, "Hey, bring back more classic elements," or did they specifically say, "People like the Daleks, use the Daleks"? It definitely felt. And it didn't feel natural to him. Like, it didn't feel like his mode of storytelling either. So that rings through as well. If you are an artist that has a particular vision and you're not being allowed to do that vision, it could very well be that it was not even his fault necessarily. He just couldn't do what he truly wanted to do because there's a lot of mandates, because it's a franchise that's been around since Kennedy was assassinated.
Literally,
Yes,
wasn't it the pilot that aired that day?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had to reschedule it.
Yes, because God, fans out there, if you haven't watched Adventure in Space and Time, watch Adventure in Space.
Please.
It's so good.
It's so good. So good.
So good. And Verity, if you don't know about Verity, oh my God.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move to Moffat. What do we love about Moffat? And I'll be right back.
He keeps leaving.
Would you like to begin, my dear?
I'll begin.
Look.
It's just rude.
This chicken is my enemy today, and there's a lot of smoke in my house, and my partner's hiding out in the bedroom.
There's
And
a
I gotta fix it.
With access to fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta fix it. I'll be right back.
I'm going to try to get back on my computer, but please, I will be listening. I just am going to go off camera for a second.
All right, solo me up. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So what we like about Moffat? Well, Moffat, of course, has a special place in my heart because he is the reason I started watching the show. My first episode ever was The Impossible Astronaut, and I saw that two-parter and The Day of the Moon, and I was like hooked. And then I went back and watched season 5, and then I went back to season 1 and went forward from there. But I have lots of opinions about Moffat, but at the end of the day, I'm like super thankful for him. River Song is my favorite Doctor Who character of all time. I have a lot of love for her, and she is one of Moffat's best characters, I think. That whole storyline, I just get so excited about. The Doctor and River, like my OTP and all that. So I owe Moffat my Doctor Who love. And even though I won't say even though yet, because that'll be a second section. So I love his companions. I love his I love most of his story arcs, most of them. And I love his dialogue and his wit and some of the jokes. Very quotable. The 11th Doctor was very quotable. What about you, Sadie? Am I alone? Oh no. Stall. What'd she put in the chat? Backstage. Oh no, Maui has to let her in. All right, well, it's just me now. I'll talk more about Moffat. So my mom tried to show me Blink like years before I became a massive fan, like everyone's good Doctor Who mom did. I didn't want to watch it, but then I finally came in and watched Impossible Astronaut. I loved the humor in it. I loved the Sadie put in our chat. I love his wit too, and the whimsy. Yes, and I think the 11th Doctor was so lovable. Here we are.
Yay! And we're back. Sorry.
And we're back.
I think it's actually going to be okay now.
I was like, the panic.
Toy, I don't know.
Yes,
I couldn't agree more. And yes. And as a fairy tale nerd, like so much of that stuff was so my taste. So yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I think the wittiness, I think it's very quotable, as you say. The 11th Doctor is extremely quotable. And just like the drunken giraffe, there's so much like goofy shit to mine from those years. And I love River too. I have complicated feelings about the way River was treated as a character, but I love her. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that.
Maui
has opinions.
Deep thoughts. Share them.
Yeah,
please.
I mean, so I was, by the end of Moffat's run, I was so beside myself. I was so upset that it's hard for me to talk about the things I like. I think, yeah, the wit, the dialogue, the whimsy, like for sure, those are the things he's really good at. And I think it's really easy, especially with like the increased budget, production value, and everything. It looks amazing. They had some dynamite actors, right? Karen Gillan becomes a freaking international superstar, after this, MCU, doing movies with The Rock,
Jumanji, yeah, all that shit.
Yeah, it's a huge cast,
which is crazy because she was a complete unknown at that point. I think she was like 22. She was baby. Both of them were really young.
The thing I knew her from before that was like a sketch comedy show, a BBC sketch comedy show. I think it was called. Trying not to get my BBC sketch comedy shows mixed up. It might have been Man Bites Dog that she was on. Was she on that?
That makes sense to me.
She was like she was a sketch comedian, and that's definitely just riding off of the mega popularity of Davies' era. Moffat was able to do a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that made it so it was easy to hide the weak spots, but definitely the dialogue, the fairy tale aspect of it all. I still maintain that the 11th Hour is like a perfect episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, yes.
It's a perfect episode, and it's not. I don't think that individual episodes have ever been Moffat's problem. Moffat could crap out an all-time episode of Doctor Who easy. It's the arc.
Sorry, crap out was funny.
Yeah, it's the arc that he has a problem with, right? Like he comes up with all these great stories, these great concepts, high concepts, the silence, things like that. These are all great, but then he has to resolve, and so to segue into what I love about him, the wit, the whimsy, to the resolve. That is the kind of like the weak spot for him. He could never end a series of Doctor Who properly. It was like you had all these questions and you didn't answer anything, or you sidestepped around it with some stupid or
you gave an answer and it's not really, we don't really buy it. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think
he digs himself into a hole.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got his first season finale pretty good, though. I think the Big Bang and what was the name of the other episode in that?
The Pandorica, was it that
one?
Yeah.
I think those were solid enough, but you guys, you're right. After that, it gets muddled.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of questions about that, though. Like, how did the thing with Rory exactly work? Like, there's a lot of muddy things that are just kind of like hidden behind a clever line of dialogue, like instead of actually like explaining what the hell I just watched.
Well, as I expressed in my outburst in our group chat yesterday after trying to rewatch the beginning of season 5 recently, I was like, Rory, get out. You can do better, baby. Go, get away.
Oh, I mean, she is horrible to him in that first
season. To him for like 20 plus years. She's awful to him. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he decides to give up his life for her. And then she's like, oh, I get it now. I love you. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, the character development on Amy was amazing. And I always said that if I started watching in season 5 instead of season 6, I would have hated her, and like she never would have made up for that. But since I started in season 6, I was like, I like this character, and then I went back and I went, oh, she used to be awful.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say the other thing because I feel like Sadie's probably going to say it from what we said the other day. So I'm just going to say like those are the things I don't like about Moffat. I'm gonna pass the ball to Sadie. Sadie, what don't you like about Moffat's era?
Well, the thing that comes up again and again for me is he just really struggles to write human woman characters.
There it is.
They are not human women. They are either robots or they are manic pixies. And there's really not a lot of in between. And it's really disappointing. And what I was saying before about River, I love the character of River. I love that she knocks him down a peg every time they interact. I love how capable she is. I love how smart she is. I love how quick she is. I love the say it again. I fucking love it. I live for River. She's amazing. However, this is a woman who was forced from infancy to focus her entire existence on this one person and destroying them. And then when she was freed of that, she decided to devote her entire existence to that same one person, but instead this time she was in love with him. And I don't buy it. I don't buy that a person who was under that kind of duress their whole life would be like, yeah, sure, I'll keep doing the same thing, but with a different impetus. Like, why? And I think she deserved better.
Not to mention there's no focus or resolution on any trauma that would have happened. That's a pretty traumatic
no,
life
she's just
that
okay.
lived.
She just doesn't have to recover from anything, which like good for her, I guess, but it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I made up for that by reading a lot of fan fiction.
That's fair.
But yeah, so the woman thing, like it is insane. Like every single like main female character, I think that Moffat views like empowerment like as being just kind of like oversexed and proud of it. So like a lot of his characters just like, I want to kiss you. And it's just like or don't have every single female character you have defined by their sexiness. Like, you know, like there's other modes like that might work for one character, but it doesn't need to be every freaking character. That's why I think Bill for me was such a breath of fresh air.
Bill and Donna.
Yeah, and
not in love with the doctor, not trying to like
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But like I felt like it wasn't as like egregious in the Davies era for me, like in terms of like the way the women were drawn. Maybe it's because it was earlier in time.
Rose is a much more interesting person than
right. She still had like I felt like she was well drawn outside of the doctor, like you know, as opposed to like Amy. Amy's the difference between like Rose and Amy is like Amy's very first scene like is defined by the doctor. There is no life outside of the doctor that we see. There, you know, like, we hear about an aunt that she lives with. We never see her. Like there's seemingly like no one raising
we see her
person.
Once when she takes her to the museum when time is folding in on itself and they're all
then it's not a real reality anyway, and then
right,
and then they were real, and then she never
she's not a real human woman. She doesn't exist outside of her experiences with the doctor.
Right. Wow. Whereas with Rose,
she's a real person.
She's in the middle of a normal day of life. We can tell that she has a life. She has a social circle. She has a mom. It's, you know, we can see her human life very clearly drawn, very clearly defined, in a way that I don't think anyone has replicated yet.
No.
Up through Chibnall's era, I feel like I don't buy any of their like human lives. Any of the companions other than like the Davies era, like Rose and Martha to an extent. Martha not quite as much, but you still get a fair amount of her like family life and just like regular human drama.
Well, and Rose, I think, had the benefit of one of my favorite episodes in terms of just like the lore of Doctor Who and the repercussions of what he does and what people do when they're with him. Was School Reunion, where they meet up with Sarah Jane again.
That episode made me cry so hard.
It's so good. Well, and it also addresses the whole, like, he leaves all these people behind.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that like for them as human beings? And I think that was so crucial.
Yeah.
In terms of differentiating her and having it be that she is in love with him, but she's also her own person and she has her own feelings and her own experience.
Yeah.
I
I am fine with like companions like falling in love with the doctor, falling in love with the life with the doctor. It doesn't necessarily have to translate into a romantic love. And he doesn't have to reciprocate it. And I feel like the reciprocation, you can only do that every once in a blue moon. Every once in a blue moon is it like, no, I'm actually like romantically in love with this person. You know, so like you do it with Rose. It should be very, very rare that a man, a Time Lord like the Doctor falls in love with like this, like a human person, right? Just because like their life is like a blink of an eye for him, you know? So you do it, and it's actually, I kind of love that the way that Davies does this, that he falls in love with Rose and then just can't give the time of day to Martha, right?
It's so heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. Because Martha's like,
awful to
sorry,
watch.
way better than Rose, in my opinion.
Amazing. She's like the most amazing companion.
Yeah.
She doesn't even need the doctor. Like,
yeah.
They go off and he's fucking shit up, and she's like,
in a
I
way
got this.
that doesn't make her the doctor. Like, she finds her own unique path. She's not just recreating being like just as capable as the doctor. She does her own thing in a very unique way.
And she's better. Like, she's more focused than he is. She's like, it's ridiculous how capable she is.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, on to you.
Oh, well, sorry about my cat, first of all.
It's okay.
Deacon's
I
fine.
love kidding.
Yeah,
he has a lot of opinions too. So I kind of feel like this about the Moffat era. The Moffat era. So it was like really good, and then I got they're kind of shaky, and then I don't know what's happening at all. And then Bill comes on, and it's okay. So, that being said, I am a huge fan of season 5 and 6. I haven't watched it in a long time. Like, watched them all the way through. Maybe even as an adult, and I'm an old adult now. So maybe I need to revisit them with this kind of new view and your guys' notes or opinions on it too, because I think all you're saying are very valid points, but things I've never thought of. Yes, we all love Martha more than
Martha's better than like the show.
Martha is gold.
Martha's better than everyone, and it's not fair that she had to put up with that nonsense from the
best companion, like the best companions in 10's era are all the ones that aren't Rose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Rose is probably my least favorite of his companions in that era.
I love Mickey too.
I think my biggest beef I have with Moffat, speaking as I haven't watched those seasons in a couple years, is the way he, first of all, I just got sick of him. He stayed around for way too long. He should have left. It would have been way more refreshing to get someone on. And 11 and 11's later seasons was gross. Like, he got super weirdly sexual about Clara, which was really weird, and it was just kind of out of character for him once he started wearing the purple outfit, right? And I have rewatched those episodes recently, and I'm like, who is this person? This is not the doctor, right? Like, yeah,
it's funny. Weird. I didn't hate Clara. I just hated the way that her whole story was written. Like, I feel like a lot of people didn't like the character. I didn't have a problem with the character. I didn't think that she had good chemistry with either doctor that she was with. And I don't know, I found the whole story really, and the Danny Pink thing, I can't get over it. It was so awful.
It was. We were promised so much, and it got taken away from us.
Well, I wanted him to go with them.
Yeah.
Would have been way more fun.
Would have simple, right?
I felt like something broke in the doctor after Amy. In 11, and it never quite got fixed.
Which is weird because like, why? I guess because he watched her grow up to a certain extent.
I mean, he got the highlights, I suppose.
But why? So why Amy then? Like, that's the thing. I don't really
It
get
was
it.
Yeah, it's weird how like it once again, it's like it feels like it's not necessarily the character, it feels like it's what the writer wants the character
Yeah,
to
it's
feel.
wedged in.
It's
It was weird.
yeah, I feel the hand of the writer so much in Moffat's era, and not just in Doctor Who, but in Sherlock.
Yeah.
Heck, even going all the way back to like couplings, you
Mhm.
know, and like once I realized that, like I can't unsee it. Now, whenever I watch anything that Stephen Moffat does, I'm like, wow, this is heavy-handed. Like he's really pushing his characters in certain directions instead of letting the characters make their own choices. And that
It's a
drives
little
me
bit how I
insane.
feel about Ryan Murphy. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy is the American Stephen Moffat.
He really
He
is.
lives for.
American Horror
Except even
Story,
worse because he like lives for drama and just wants his cast members to fight each other.
People versus O.J. Simpson. It's very just like super slick, very very well written dialogue, but like just like the core tenets of writing are not being adhered.
Yeah. It's like pithy, witty one-liners at the expense of like actual character development some of the time. I would agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is great when you're like sitting there and you just want to be
and then like
entertained.
shock value. Sorry.
Yeah. When you want to be entertained in that way, that's great. But if you're looking at it any deeper for any like the deeper like themes or just like wanting to follow like the character arcs, for me it becomes very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not saying that, and don't get me wrong, people. Like I'm not saying that these things are without value. I think they are. You know, both eras are wonderful in their own ways, and I've watched every episode. But here are the things that I think they could have done better. So. Let's move to Davies. I'll go first on this one. With what I love about Davies, I felt like, and maybe it's because he is the one who kind of created the template of what New Who would be, but I just feel like it's quintessential Doctor Who, especially because when it came back, like the effects weren't that great, right? It was so like
Pizza.
The plastic.
Right. You don't have to hide, like you don't have the luxury of hiding behind like movie level production special effects, right? So you have to write very compelling stories, very compelling character driven stories, because like the monsters are like obviously rubber, you know, they and it was still in that kind of like old style, kind of slightly cheesy, campy thing, you know. But the heart, you know, the heart of it, and like talk about like knowing how to finish an arc, like nothing makes me cry like the season finale of a Russell T Davies like era Doctor Who season. With Bad Wolf, you know, from series 1, you know, the Doctor's like goodbye, you know, hologram to Rose is brilliant, you know, Rose like, you know, taking in the heart of the TARDIS, you know, looking into like this, you know, becoming a god to save, right? Like it's so big, you know, these wonderfully big moments, and like she doesn't stay a god, right? Because humans shouldn't be gods, right? So like it's
and
like
it hurts.
one
She
and
says
done
it
thing.
hurts, and he says you need a doctor, and it's the sweetest thing. I love it so
It's
much.
amazing.
I know it's cheesy, but I don't care.
Yeah. And
I
it's
love
like the heart
it.
of it.
No, I'm so with you. I'm like tearing up just thinking about it.
Yeah. Or like and it's also ridiculous in its own way too, but like it's ridiculous in a way that like feels like earned.
Yeah.
Right? Like you earned the cheese here, you know.
Yes, 100%.
It's my favorite master. Like I love, well, no, it's my favorite master, like evil master, but like reformed like Missy.
I was gonna
like
say we
goals.
can't lest we forget.
Like reformed Missy is goals. But yeah, like all of that is just absolutely brilliant, and just a few of the reasons why I love the Russell T Davies era Also, I think he had an embarrassment of riches in terms of the Doctor. With Eccleston and Tennant, he had two just absolutely fantastic doctors, two of my favorites of all time. Yeah, those are some of my reasons. Steph, let's go to you next.
Oh man. So like I said earlier, I went back and watched all of Russell T Davies after I watched season 5 and 6. So I was all out of order with that. But David Tennant is my favorite Doctor. I mean, hands down, everything about him is just so well written, so fleshed out. And we got to give Russell T Davies a lot of credit for creating a whole new lease on the show, creating all this new lore, creating like all of this background of what happened, and like making it heart-wrenching, like about the Time Lords, and making it interesting, and tying that into all the season finales. It's amazing when you think about like the feat and the job he had in front of him, and how he sat down and handled it. And he was just so beloved by his actors. I think back to, I don't know how involved you guys were in the fandom in like 2013. That was like my peak for me. But I suppose this came out way earlier when he left. But the Ballad of...
Let's do
I
it.
didn't
Yeah.
watch that today. That's
The one
funny
that I was just gonna. I thought you were talking about the parody of the Ballad of Barry and Frida.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And it's just... It goes to show you like how beloved he was, and how much work he put, and he spilled his heart and soul into this, and his actors gave back to him tenfold. And that's part of the reason that the show was so great, and all of the relationships was so genuine, and the writing was great, because they all had this great friendship and this great relationship between each other and the writer. And I think those 2 points alone showed what an amazing writer he was, just picking this from the ground up and doing it so successfully.
Yeah, I will say one thing about the Ballad of Russell and Julie. There is
Julie and Russell sat one night.
There is one line in that has aged so badly.
Oh no,
Like
I haven't
milk?
watched it.
Oh no, what is it?
Oh, there's a line, because John Barrowman is and he said, and she said, there's a line where they say and Johnny B always has his cock out. Like literally in the song is the proof in the pudding.
I mean, but that okay, but that doesn't mean the same thing. When Brits say that, it means like you're just being lewd. It doesn't necessarily mean literally.
But he literally did that all the time. And they cut to him and he winks. Like it's so lampshaded. Like I think they were literally talking about him always exposing himself on set.
I mean, like I've been to so many Chicago TARDISes, and all the actors from there talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yowza.
It was like, ooh.
Yowza!
walking lawsuit there, Behrman. Chill out, bud.
Anyway, yes.
Anyway.
All right. Sadie, what do you love about RTD?
What do I love about Russell T Davies? I mean, I would agree with everything you've both said. I think David Tennant's Doctor, the way that he was written and the way that he performed it was just, it's hard to beat. I am always reluctant to say that I have a favorite, but it's really hard to beat David Tennant. And I think that there was a simplicity to it. I think there was a clarity of purpose, and and there was a little bit more of a critical eye on the Doctor in certain ways. Like I think he was able to get away with more in later years, whereas the whole what was it, the end of time sequence with him and Bernard Cribbins,
oh god,
just the most devastating, but also
best companion, by the way, Bernard Cribbins.
The best.
Wilfred Mott.
Wilf. Who doesn't love Wilf?
Oh my god.
But I would say that like the whole thing about that is that he has fallen victim to his own hubris. He wants to do more and be more than he ever can do or be, and he's punished for it.
Waters of Mars.
And
Waters
it's
of Mars.
really weird that he then turns into a younger, more reckless person. That part kind of lost me a little bit, to be honest with you. But I sort of understood it because when they did the 50th anniversary and it was the man who regrets, the man who forgets, okay, whatever. Like, I'll take it. I'll take it, but I don't know that I buy that someone who learned just a harsh lesson where it was like, do I let my dear old man veteran friend die, or do I take the bullet myself? To then turn around and be like, no, like it's a weird gear switch. So I think Moffat came in a little hot, much as I do love the 11th Hour. Moffat came in a little hot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I definitely think the 11th Doctor is like it felt like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, because it felt like this was a Doctor that didn't have so much of the weight of the Time War on him. That he had tried to move on a bit, but then also like the weight of the Time War kept coming back because it's such a great like plot device. So like they keep throwing it back in his face, and you keep seeing the repercussions.
And that's why I was so excited when it was Capaldi next, because I was like, yes, go from the youngest to the oldest.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very interesting. All right, the last thing before we sign off here, give me one hope for this second coming of RTD's Doctor Who. Like, what's something that you would like to see? Like, what's like, give me like number one on your wish list.
As pertains just to the writing or
writing, casting, anything.
Well, I think we can all say that we want to see more diversity in the Doctor. Like, that's just a given, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. I'm like, that's the easy one, but what else do I want?
I'll go first. How about me? I'll go first while y'all think about it. So one thing I would like to see is a return to a more like structured season.
Yeah.
Moffat's schedule was super weird, and I felt like it didn't get much better with Chibnall. I feel like we like have more and more time in between seasons of Who.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's more
why.
network than it is showrunner related.
I think so too, because we'll always come back, so they can keep us waiting.
Right. So, but like, I think that has done a lot, that more than anything, to destroy the momentum of like the juggernaut that Doctor Who was, because like the first 5 seasons came out like on a pretty like heck, even 6 seasons came out in a pretty like quick schedule, like yearly schedule, and then we started getting like year breaks, like 12, 14, 16, 18-month breaks, just to have one episode and then another 6-month break before like the next series. It's got really all over the place. So I'm really hoping for
unfortunately
kind of
that's a big British TV problem in general. Like there's BBC is really bad about consistent seasons of any show.
True.
But yeah, they've been particularly bad about it with Doctor Who over the last 10 years or so. It's definitely, because we got, like you said, we got a season a year for the first 6 years, and it's like, well, now we're on season 13, but it's been like 16 years since it started.
Yeah, it's super weird. So I'd love to see that. And then the other thing I would like to see is, as I've said, many times throughout this broadcast, I would like to see companions that are more human, and less like the Doctor. I think for me, and I will say for me, I'll use an I statement here. For me, I love the Doctor most when he is juxtaposed against a normal human that reminds him that there are just humans out there that he himself needs to be tied to humanity to keep from becoming the master. So
yeah, absolutely. I hope we get a little more back to the fun. I think that's what I've been missing a little bit in the last couple of seasons, because there have been moments of it. And Jodie is a fun actor. Like she has it in her and she tries, but it's not really written in. So it's a little bit, it's like we've been saying, it's been a little bit heavy-handed. It's been a little bit like the metaphors have been beaten to death a little bit. And I think getting back to what makes Doctor Who this fun adventure, like you were saying with children, like it needs that sense of wonder.
I'd love to see like a teenage companion.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's
high school
see.
Student, trade school student.
Yeah, let's see the world through like the eyes of a kid, through youth.
Get like a Attack the Block era John Boyega type, right? Like, how amazing would that be? Like a kid from the projects in London. That would be amazing.
That would be so
dope.
Rad. It's kind of what Rose was.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe not a white lady this time.
Yeah, but maybe not a white lady this time. All right, Steph, what about you?
I am most excited to see, or what I hope I see the most, is kind of the continuation of all the things that have changed since Russell T Davies left. All of the new lore added, all of the new personality kind of doctors. And I know some of the last season's stuff, like the Timeless Child, might get resolved in this upcoming season that we have with Jodie and Chibnall. But if that continues to be a story point, I'm excited to see what he does with that. I'm excited to see what other changes he has to the lore. Like that's the good shit. When you're a Doctor Who fan for a long time, you live for that stuff.
Well, you live it. I'm not as much of a fan of the Timeless Child.
I already told everyone.
It is a massive retcon, so that is fair.
But yeah, but it's happened. You can't take it back, right? Like don't erase it. If
exactly,
then you need to it just needs to be part of the lore now. So,
that is what I'm most excited about. I'm excited to see him. Yes, and go forth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so that's our show for today. I want to thank Stephanie and Sadie so much for being on. I think we're actually going to do a couple more weeks of Who on the dope. So we now kind of just discussed like the showrunners. So next week.
Oh my god, it's huge. Is it bigger on the inside too?
It's smaller on the inside. It's an inverse TARDIS cup, so it's just a shot glass actually. So today we talked about showrunners. Next week we're going to talk about doctors. The week after that we're going to talk about doctors. We're going to rank doctors. And then the week after that we're going to rank companions. I'm going to put together a list of companions. So we're going to rank companions, all of them. All of modern era. Because we'll be here all day if we do.
Yeah, no, we'd be here.
So we're going to rank modern era doctors. We're going to rank modern era companions, and then the culmination will be our next debate club. It's going to be a 1v1 debate club, and it will be all Doctor Who themed questions, head to head. So all on Modern Who. So it's a month of Modern Who. On the dope, because I'm not a horror fan, and it's it's October, so instead I'm doing Doctor Who.
That's fine, I guess.
So be sure to check that out. Like I said, next week we're doing doctors and then companions, or maybe companions then doctors. I'm not sure the order yet. And then lastly will be the debate club, the Doctor Debate Club. So there you go. Thank you everybody for watching. Anything y'all got to plug or anything, feel free to do so now, or forever hold your peace.
I should have brought my Sonics. I should really just keep them right here. Both of you guys have yours.
I have 2.
Do I have?
I have 5.
Okay, calm down. All right. I think
now, but
what was that?
I said I don't think I have anything to plug right now, but happy Sonicking, everyone.
Happy Sonicking. Alyssa Cowper in Georgia. Just Billy Piper said she might come back. I actually hope that's not gonna happen.
I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah,
I am excited. I'm excited for RTD, but I don't want him to just bring back all the stuff from 9 and 10 era.
Yeah.
I want him to create something new and fresh. Yes. I want to see what 2022 2021, 2022 era, Russell T Davies has to say now, and what kind of Doctor he's going to make now, because the world is very, very different.
Yeah.
Than what it used to be. She said it on the cameo thing.
Oh.
Interesting. We should get I wonder how much it costs to get Billy Piper on the cameo. A trick her into being on the show. Hey, I cameoed you.
She's a big ticket.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to you soon. Stay dope.